amid the violence erupting down at the Gaza border today, which we discussed earlier this evening, U.S. President Donald Trump's Mideast team is trying a different approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. An opinion piece in the Washington Post saying until governance changes or Hamas recognizes the state of Israel, abides by previous diplomatic agreements, and renounces violence, there is no good option, and that if Hamas demonstrates clear, peaceful intentions, not just by word, but more importantly by deed, then all manner of new opportunities become possible.
Hamas quickly responded, saying Trump's team has adopted the Israeli position. Its continued attacks against the Hamas organization reflects the arrogance of the U.S. administration, which has turned its administration officials into spokesmen for the Israeli occupation only. Well, joining us now in studio is Abu Zayyad, international spokesman for Fatah. And Ziad, there does seem to be a pattern here. We had Jared Kushner, of course, giving that interview a few weeks ago to an Arab newspaper, trying to reach a broader, maybe Palestinian public. Now we have this piece in the Washington Post, which is sort of trying to, in a sense, direct itself, I guess, to the Palestinians in Gaza. I want to get your reaction to this, I guess, new strategy by the U.S. administration.
Well, it's a new strategy by Greenblatt and Kushner to cover the failures of their ongoing campaign to mislead the international or regional opinion by trying to claim that they're trying to do something for the sake of the peace process, and forgetting about the fact that the U.S. administration former steps by moving the U.S. embassy into Jerusalem and denying the Palestinian basic demands that were submitted by the Palestinian president caused the result in which the Palestinian leadership declared the U.S. administration as a not accepted mediator in any kind of a peace process between the Palestinians and the Israelis. This is the real problem. They're trying to change it into a humanitarian case by speaking about Gaza. Well, the fact is that the U.S. administration is the one who cut the funds on the UNRWA and caused this disastrous situation when speaking about the situation of refugees in Gaza. So it's a failure after a failure, and they're trying new strategies to cover this.
Ziad, it wasn't so long ago, as you mentioned, when the U.S. moved its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, that the Palestinian President Abbas said that they are no longer, the U.S. that is, a legitimate mediator between Israel and the Palestinians. Does this tough position on Hamas taken by the U.S. in this op-ed change in any way Fatah's position on the U.S.'s role as mediator?
No. This is the new strategy of bringing Hamas into the picture is just another attempt by this three members team, which is David Friedman, Kushner, and Greenblatt, to try to cover up their failures and moving towards any kind of progress in the peace process, whether when speaking about the Arab countries that are involved in it or the Palestinians themselves. They're trying to say, well, the problem is not us. There is a situation in Gaza which is a big mess. 2 million Palestinians are living in a disastrous situation, and we're not the reason. It's not the fact that there is no political solution that is causing this. They're implementing the opinions that are coming through the right extreme opinion within the Israeli government, such as Lieberman, who actually was the first one to suggest this plan of opening a channel between Cyprus and Gaza and bringing economy into Gaza. And this reflects the tweets that Greenblatt put on his page just recently. So it's just another strategy to cover up their failures.
So let's bring into the conversation David Makovsky, Ziegler Distinguished Fellow at the Washington Institute and Director of the Project on the Middle East Peace Process. He's speaking to us from Maryland. David, we know, of course, the Trump administration is preparing this peace plan, which will be directed more to the Palestinian Authority. So why today did that Mideast peace team focus on the Gaza Strip?
Look, I think in reality, really since the Palestinian boycott of the U.S. since January, there's been a shift in the thinking. The peace plan has always been out there. It's widely expected to fall short of anything the Palestinians would like as a final status deal. And but at the same time, there's this sense that Gaza, there's a greater sense of urgency. The number of trucks going into Gaza from Israel went from 900 to some say 150, 200, 250. And not because I think Israel put restrictions, but because of the purchasing power in the Gaza market. And so I think there's a greater urgency there, and I think that's led this administration to shift gears to go to the urgent rather than what they would aspire to in a grand deal. And frankly, I think it makes more sense because this is more urgent, and I think the chances on the grand deal are frankly much lower, given the gaps between the parties. As someone who worked this issue on Secretary Kerry's team, it's better, you have a better shot to try to solve what you can solve. And so I actually think it's a good thing to focus on Gaza now.
Fatah movement, its leaders have questioned the leadership of Hamas, has questioned its legitimacy there in the Gaza Strip, have called for it to accept the conditions that Fatah accepted as part of the Oslo peace accords. So there is something to be said for Hamas really adopting some of these positions.
Well, listen, if you go back 1 or 2 weeks in time, the one who opened a channel of negotiation with Hamas regarding an economic solution for Gaza was actually the U.S., the current U.S. administration, in cooperation with Israel and through Qatar, and specifically Al-Amoudi, who is the Qatari ambassador in Gaza. And the deal was speaking about releasing the bodies of the Israeli soldiers in exchange for a better economy inside Gaza, opening a channel between Cyprus and Gaza, and other economic stuff. Now, this was another political agenda that included the blackmailing for the President Mahmoud Abbas by telling him that if you don't want to accept our peace agreement, we're willing to speak to other people. But the fact is, and the reality is, since the establishment of the PLO and the recognition of the word and the General Assembly and the other Arab countries, the only representative of the Palestinian people who is in charge of directing any kind of political discussions is the PLO with its head and leadership.